you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
What is going on, UFL fans? James Larson here at Pro Football Newsroom, host of Around the UFL's interview series. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Chris Boniol, Special Teams Coordinator for the Birmingham Stallions. Chris, thanks for joining me. How are you doing today?
Thank you, James. Doing well. Appreciate you having
joining
me.
us and taking time out of your day to talk some Stallions football, talk some UFL. But before we get into all of that, how's the offseason been treating you?
Off-season's been nice. You know, we work very hard during the season, and but we sure rest hard during the off-season. So it's been a good time catching up with family, friends, and just getting caught up on rest and staying busy.
Yeah, enjoying some warm weather down there in Tampa?
Tampa's weather's getting pretty nice right now. We're not quite out of hurricane season yet, but so far the weather's been pretty good.
Well, that's great to hear. And Chris, we got a lot to get into, and we could talk probably about your career this entire show, but obviously we have a lot to get into with UFL. But I want to start a little bit about your career and your journey. You played as a place kicker in the NFL. You've coached in the NFL. You had a long playing career, long coaching career on both aspects. But something I thought was interesting is you played both punter and kicker in high school. And we see a lot these days, when players can be versatile and bring multiple assets to the table, it helps them so much more in their journeys in pro football and college football. Do you think playing both those positions kind of helped push your career forward as you went to college in the NFL?
I think if you go to look at high schools, usually the guy that's the best kicker is probably going to be the best punter as well. He's going to devote all his time working on his craft and develop those skills better than most. So I was a combo guy, kicked and punted, and then went to college as a place kicker. But with the punting background, I ended up doing some punting in college as well, and then it served me well in the NFL. I had to back up our punter always, and had a few reps in the NFL.
And speaking of your time in the NFL, you signed with the Dallas Cowboys as an undrafted free agent, spent some time there. I know you bounced around between a few NFL teams, but for you being an undrafted free agent and seeing the landscape of pro football now where there's so many guys like yourself who go undrafted and then they don't have a place to play. Do you kind of have maybe a fondness for a league like the UFL and seeing its place right now in this pro football space?
Oh, absolutely. I was an undrafted free agent by the Dallas Cowboys, and at the time they had just won 2 straight Super Bowls. So I was a kid in a candy store, man. I was starstruck when I showed up in the building. But you know what? It was a small opportunity. And it worked out for me. So I appreciate when the little guys or the guys that are fighting to get their opportunities. And a league like the UFL has done a great job of that. You've got guys that have gotten out of the NFL for whatever reason. It could be injury, it could be age. Some guys who haven't made it to the NFL yet. But the UFL is definitely an opportunity league, and the league does a good job of providing players with those opportunities to go out, put your game film out there, and show that you can play this game.
Speaking of playing this game, you were with the Dallas Cowboys for a few years, and you actually set what I'm seeing here is a club record of consecutive field goals made, 26 straight kicks, which now I'm pretty sure that record is now held by Brandon Aubrey, a guy that you coached. But talk to me a little bit about your time in Dallas, and I know you were with Darryl Johnson there as a fellow teammate for a little bit, who's now, obviously heavily involved in USFL and the UFL.
Yeah, it did have some records that were current back in the day. I had a couple of different streaks of 27, 28 field goals in a row. Actually went up to 34 counting the playoffs one year, if you include those. But those and 7 field goals in one game. We beat the Packers 21-6 one time on all field goals. But those records have been broken by kickers with the Cowboys and also others around the league. So. It was good to have your name at the top for a while, but there's always going to be more competitive guys coming along that get those opportunities. And some things are better left in memory, and that's certainly a long time ago.
No doubt. Well, to kind of jump into your coaching career, you end up with the Dallas Cowboys as an assistant there. Could you kind of talk about how that opportunity came about for you, jumping into coaching in the NFL, and maybe some of the things that you learned through that process?
Yeah, as soon as I was done playing, I went back to Texas, living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I was an educator. I taught in the public and the private schools, and I did a lot of private coaching and player development with high school, college, and even free agents. And man, the Cowboys back in 2010, they wanted somebody to work with a young kicker. And I was local, so I started working with them. And then my NFL coach and had success with the players there that I was working with. And then went ahead and stayed in the NFL for quite some time. And as any coach will tell you, you'll start bouncing around at some point and you'll start moving around. So spent, 4 years in Dallas coaching, did a spill with the Raiders, and then got into college, and then back with the Bucks in 2019 during the Tom Brady Super Bowl years.
You were the kicker you're referring to is Dan Bailey, right?
Oh yeah, Dan did a great job, undrafted free agent, and had a nice career. And you look at some of the other guys I've had along the way. I was able to be with Sebastian Janikowski for 1 year. And really, it wasn't a matter of coaching him because he was an incredible talent, but just helping the environment around him with whether it's the operation, the protection, just helping him make sure he performs at a high level. You've got Matt Gay, who we had in Tampa, worked with him for 2 years. He's gone on to have a nice career with the Rams and now the Commanders. And of course, been very fortunate in the USFL and UFL. Have Brandon Aubrey and just some and then Harrison Mevis this past year. Both had good years, but between that we had Chris Blewett, who's been in the league for a while, and he had success. It's something. I think there's talented kickers all over the league, talented punters. We've been fortunate in Birmingham that we've kept a good streak going.
No doubt, and like I said at the beginning of this, we could probably talk about your coaching career just in the NFL for this entire show, but I want to ask about your stop in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers, especially with that beautiful piece of metal you got behind you with that Super Bowl trophy. There's not a lot of people in UFL that can say that they are a Super Bowl champion. Can you just take me through your time in Tampa Bay and what that feeling was like to win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, well, I'm proud of these trophies. I'm very fortunate, one of the very few people to have won as a player and as a coach. And we had Matt Gay for a year and a half, and then we brought in Ryan Suckup, who was kind of at the end of his career, but a very consistent kicker. And I think really with Gay, it was more about development, teaching him the technical aspect and helping him develop his skills that way. With Ryan, you have a different set of circumstances. You have an older guy towards the end of his career. He's trying to hang on and produce for a couple of more years, and was able to really help him with his body, managing how he practices. And so that when he came to the game time, he felt good enough to play, because that can happen to an older guy if they don't watch their work during the week. You hear about guys having a a veteran day off in practice, a vet day off. Well, that has to happen sometimes, or else the guys won't make it to the game with a full tank, and so it's part of managing their body so they are more productive when it matters the most.
No doubt. I mean, obviously you guys did it when it mattered most, won a Super Bowl. And then I believe it was January of 2023, give or take, was when your time in Tampa Bay came to an end. And then you end up in the USFL with the Birmingham Stallions on Skip Holtz's coaching staff. Can you talk a little bit about how that opportunity came up for you with Skip Holtz, and was there any ties with Darryl Johnson, having been former teammates, or how'd that all play out for you?
It's funny because I had an acquaintance and a relationship with Skip. He had recruited my son at Louisiana Tech. My son was a kicker and ended up going to Louisiana Tech, and then Skip left Louisiana Tech and got into the USFL. And I actually called Skip. I was looking for another coach to inquire about a particular job at another university. And he's like, well, I need a special teams coordinator. So I was like, hey, I'm definitely interested. And but I had to finish up a couple of interviews at the NFL Combine. And but as soon as I took those interviews, I could tell that those jobs weren't gonna, happen. And I called him up and said, I'm ready to roll. Just let me know when we start. And it's been a fun ride. Not only have we been successful, Skip's great to work for. We have a great culture, great office environment with the staff, and it's a lot of fun. And I appreciate that he gives me the keys to the special teams phase and just said, hey, take it and run with it. And it's an enjoyable opportunity.
Yeah, in a scene like this too, where obviously UFL, it's probably not as big as they'd like to be with coaching staffs, and some of these guys have to wear multiple hats. How helpful is it to have that team camaraderie that Skip Holtz has led, and really just like that winning culture that's been built in Birmingham feels like it stems from the top and just runs down through the entire organization?
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody's got a job to do. You do have a small coaching staff, very small equipment staff, very small training staff. So I think I'm the special teams coordinator. I'm the equipment manager. And because really, if I need stuff for drills, the equipment guys will get it to the field, but I've got to do all the setting up. It's not like colleges where you've got 15 equipment student managers and a huge staff and all this equipment. You have limited resources and limited personnel, and so we all help each other out. The other coaches on the staff do a great job of helping me with the show teams, helping me with returners and with drills, and you can't do it all by yourself. And so I'm very fortunate to have some great help on our staff, across the board. And and then you look at our snapper and our punter and our kicker, I have to count on them to be the equipment guys. So we're all in it together. We pitch in where needed, and we get the job done.
I gotta ask the $1 million question, because I'm sure that's what everybody is curious about, in the sense of you got to work with Brandon Aubrey, who now is arguably the NFL's top kicker, one of the best kickers we have seen in the pro football space. Just an unbelievable story. I mean, going from a soccer player to trying out in the USFL and earning all USFL honors, going to Dallas. I'm curious, from your perspective, being his coach in the USFL, was there a moment, at some point during your time working at him where you realized, like, all right, yeah, this guy's going to the next level, and, like, he's the real deal?
Well, when I got to Birmingham, I had been in the NFL for a while. And so my perspective, he fit right in. Nothing really jumped out at me. I thought he hit the ball nicely, but I hadn't been in it's not like I was in college and suddenly I'm watching him kick the ball. I went from NFL to an NFL type kicker. And so there was no surprise. Nothing really caught me off guard. That was just what I had been used to seeing on a regular basis. But the other coaches on the staff, they noticed that, oh, this guy's got something. College guys and smaller other places, they don't hit the ball like him. And but I do know that there were some things we had to work on and to develop, not just your leg strength. I can't make him any stronger than he is. He's always had that leg strength. But to develop the skills and the consistency, there was a process to it. I saw an interview or was listening to the Cowboys game the other day, and Tom Brady was talking about his conversation with Brandon, And Brandon mentioned that, I really don't ever practice longer than 55 yards. And that's kind of what we did in Birmingham, to be honest with you, because to me, even if you have the leg to kick at 60 plus, you if you practice on these long field goals, you're going to train yourself to drive the ball. Well, then you're going to get block kicks. You're not going to hit it as clean. So we worked really hard on hitting the same ball flight, getting it up in the air with great rotation. And so and same thing with Blewett, same thing with Harrison Mevis. I don't like to go past 55 yards because if it shows up in the game, you take your shot at it. But we're going to develop the skills necessary to be consistent enough to have a chance in the NFL.
And I'd assume, that type of consistency is what played into him getting an opportunity in the NFL in the first place. Because with the Stallions, funny enough, it's not even like he was kicking 60-yarders. I mean, he was primarily kicking 40s, 30s, and then on extra point. Obviously, extra point doesn't exist in the UFL, but in the USFL, that was still a thing. And I don't know, he was like 50 for 50 on extra points or something like that, which obviously is an important stat. That, at least from what you're saying and from what we can see, that played more of a role in him if he would have hit a 65-yarder.
I think that the things that were lacking in his game was he was consistent. He was making a lot of kicks, but he was very slow. His operation times, which some people call it the get-off time, the snap to the kick, he was in the mid 1.45, like he was around 1.4, 1.45 seconds. And if you follow it enough, you need to be around 1.3 to 1.25 seconds. And that you're talking about splitting hairs. But when you have a rusher coming off the edge, a corner coming off the edge, or you have some defensive tackles that are 6'7", 6'8", that are getting good push, that extra 10 or 15 one-hundredths of a second gives them more time to affect that kick and block a kick. So that was really, I think, had he not improved his get-off times, nobody was going to give him a chance, because you can't be that slow in the NFL and have a chance.
We got Brock Miller watching the show, punter who's been around the block.
Hey,
and
Brock,
was in the
he's
UFL.
been a heck of a player in the UFL, yeah.
Yeah, Brock's one of our guys. He was on the show a couple of years ago as well. But he brought up the fact, that Aubrey's kickoffs probably played a factor as well, with what Vassell saw there.
Yeah, his kickoffs, he could kill it. I mean, he could hit the ball from the 20-yard line. He could kick touchbacks. He could hit a bloop kick and put it on the ground. And I remember that John Fossil, the special teams coach in Dallas at that time, he loved the fact that, hey, man, he got one on the ground, which you have a chance for a turnover or a really good coverage tackle inside the 20. And when you're talking about kicking off from the 20 like we did back then, he was a big asset for that.
I have a question in here from Between the Goalposts who's asking about Colby Wadman. I know we talked about Brandon Aubrey, but Wadman's been on this team for 4 years, heading into his 5th season, and he's been tremendous. I mean, he's earned all USFL honors. He's been such a key piece of this unit. Could you talk a little about, how he plays into your special teams philosophy and what he does that just elevates your unit to the next level?
Well, first of all, he's got all the right qualities as a person. He's a great locker room guy, great teammate. He's on the field, he's a great holder. He's a very good punter. We're a directional punting team, and he has the ability to punt directionally, to punt to our coverage, our gunners. He has the ability to disguise direction. So he does a nice job, and he's very savvy in the plus 50 in the pooch punting, and especially with the rule changing to where you cannot punt the ball out of bounds inside the 10 or inside the 5, which he was really good at. He now knows the parameters he has to play in, so he does a good job of eliminating touchbacks, which is field position for our team. Does a great job.
I was going to ask about that because one of the unique rules in the UFL is they've really eliminated the coffin corner punt, which is tough and frustrating for these guys who can do it at a high level. I mean, we've seen multiple I've watched multiple broadcasts where we've seen a great punt that goes out of bounds at like the 8-yard line, but nope, it comes out to the 25 because of those rules. From a special teams coordinator position, what's your thoughts on a rule like that, and is that something that you'd like to see changed at some point?
Well, there's two things that go together in the punt rule. The two things that I think affect the number of returns you're getting, and the league has gotten what they wanted, is the drive starts. Okay, so if you're punting plus 50, first of all, our gunners cannot release at the snap. In the NFL and the way the USFL was, the gunners could release as soon as the ball was snapped, and that's the outside guy on each side of the ball. Okay, and so they could release and go down and make tackles. They could go down and play the ball inside the 20. But now those guys can't release till the ball's punted. All right, and so now the ball's only going to go so far and have so much hang time. So now those gunners are not getting that extra 2 seconds of coverage. So the league now, by taking away the coffin corner, you're getting teams that are becoming much more aggressive in the plus 50. So instead of getting a fair catch at the 10 or the 8, they're trying to get a return. And but the problem you have is some guys are making some yards and getting it back to the 25, and getting good field position. But some guys, some returners back there are making really poor decisions, and so now they're putting their team inside the 10 or causing turnovers, And so they're allowed to be aggressive, but it's sometimes too aggressive, in my opinion.
While we're on the topic of rules, one of the things that I want to get your opinion on as well was the kickoff, where for the first couple of years with the Stallions, you had the USFL kickoff, which was more traditional style, but over the last year, you shifted back to what we saw in the XFL, and now it's what the NFL is doing as well. How do you kind of adjust to something like that, and what are your thoughts on this new setup on kickoff?
Well, first, I love the old rule, kicking from the 20, because it was a fun play. It's hard to hit touchbacks, so you have action every ball, just about. The problem we were having is we had a lot of soft tissue injuries. If you kick off 8 or 10 times, and you're sprinting down the field from the 20-yard line to the other 20, that's a lot of 60-yard sprints. And so the new rule, I think it's helped guys from an endurance standpoint. We're able to practice better because we don't have so much running for those guys in coverage. They're not running as much in games. And so now you're able to use more guys in kickoff coverage and the kickoff return game because they're not going to be completely tapped out on first out of defense, if they're on coverage. So I think it's been a good rule. I think it's helped our guys, the health of their soft tissue, hamstrings, and so forth. And I think it's a fun play. I don't think the league got the drive starts that they were looking for. I think they expected to have more returns and therefore better drive starts. But you do get action because of the touchback penalties and the out of bounds penalty.
Chris, I gotta say, you're doing a tremendous job setting me up for every single next question I have with the topics you keep bringing. This is great because you're talking about the injuries, and that was going to be my next question: is the injury bug has hit you these last couple of years? Where 2024 you had kicker and punter go down, brought in Drew Crispin, brought in Ramiz Ahmed, and then this year you had to use 3 long snappers, and obviously Langan goes down, William Mote comes in, Gage King comes in. How do you manage all that? I mean, especially we're talking about beforehand. These are small rosters. It's not like you have practice squads. It's not like you can really have many guys on the inactive roster. That's a lot to handle.
Well, yeah, it's literally the way it happens is a player will pay for his ticket, get down there, get off the plane, and come right out to a physical with the physicians, and then go to practice. And then we're jumping right into it. But really, it's about getting those guys up to speed on knowing what we need them to accomplish and to execute. And just make sure that they are feeling pretty good on game day, because you have the fatigue of travel, the fatigue of, I want to go in and get my kicking in, and now suddenly they're kicking more days per week than they normally would. But it's really just kind of getting them to the game and allow them to do what we've seen them do on tape in the past throughout their careers. So, and then like this year, so a year ago we had Ramiz Ahmed came in. We had Colby Wadman got hurt, turning over with the kicker and the punter. And then this year we had Ryan Langan go down with a hamstring, and he was gone for probably about 5 weeks until the playoff game. And that's a tough one. When you lose your snapper, not only do you lose a guy that can snap, but you lose a guy that is like another coach on the field, a guy that knows the protection front and back. He's a good leader on the field, a good communicator, make sure everybody knows what's going on. And so that's a tough one. And so then that's when it now becomes, hey, you really got to teach these guys and spend some time in the meeting room with them so that they are up to speed. But you also have to prepare the rest of that punt team, because now they've got to see, hey, this guy's rhythm may be a little bit different. I can't have a false start. Or this guy, he may not know the protection quite as well. So we've got to be his eyes and we got to communicate with him. So everybody's involved in being successful in that phase.
We got a question from Between the Goalposts about the long snappers, and he says, how do you go about scouting the long snapper position, especially during the season, with guys going down?
YouTube, to be honest with you. And I've always kept a list of names at every position, going back to my NFL coaching days. And I would literally go back and look at all my draft evaluations of guys coming out of college. And then I would just try to go and peek at what they've done lately on YouTube at some of the combine events. I know Nick Novak had one recently for the specialists and the UFL showcase, and just like to see. But there's also people that I'm familiar with just because of my history in coaching, whether it was when I was recruiting a snapper as a college coach, or well, hey, I know this snapper because he played on my son's college football team, so I'm familiar with them on a personal level as well. But also, I'm looking for guys. Honestly, snappers, they get timed all the time on what their snap times are. I could care less what your snap time is. Can you send a catchable ball to the punter, and can you send laces on field goals? All right. The other one is, how well can you get out of your stance? When you snap, how well do you vertical set in protection? All right. Because in pro football, it's unlike college. You can't leave early. You've got a vertical set. And if you got a defensive tackle or a big defensive end that's blowing up that A gap, you've got to be able to get out of your stance, and you've got to get between him and the punter. And even if he puts you on your back, you've got to get between him and the punter. And some snappers struggle getting out of their stance.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the guys we had this year did a nice job.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive watching the way that all unraveled, and part of it too, like we talked about earlier, is thankfully you do have a lot of the same pieces, generally speaking, where the Stallions are one of the teams in the UFL that probably has the least amount of roster turnover. I mean, in the sense of a lot of the guys coming back, a lot of veterans. I'd be curious, we talk about some of the standouts, but there's a lot of guys who, whether they're offensive standouts or defensive standouts, they make plays on special teams too. Are there any players in particular that come to your mind when it comes to guys that have been consistent for you on special teams over the last couple of years?
Oh, man, they've been done a great job. I mean, you look at our linebacker core, Tazino has been a core player, and I say a core player. He's a guy that I can plug in anywhere in any phase. Gates did a great job this year. With the new kickoff rule that we had, now you can use, let's say you had like a Kenny Robinson that's playing every down on defense. Well, now he can also participate in the kickoff coverage because he's not running as much.
Right.
There were guys in the past when we had that long kickoff run that you just can't put them in there on a kickoff because they're about to go play every down on defense, and it puts them in a bad situation on first down and second, especially third down. So you have to be careful with it like that. But man, we've had some good guys. Ricky Person Jr. Has not played as much special teams this past season because he plays so much running back, but he's always been an outstanding core special teamer. Does a great job, has always been very productive when he's in the game. A lot of tackles. A.J. Thomas on defense, smart, can run, and also has been some of the leading team in tackles the last couple of years. It just goes on and on. Gates had a great year last year and really stepped up, and took ownership in the coverage game on punt and kickoff coverage. And, if you can use some of your best, most athletic cover guys that are out there covering on defense, well, man, if you can get them out there in special teams covering kicks, that's a bonus right there.
No doubt. We got a question from Between the Goalposts, another one. He said, what stat do you think most fans overlook on special teams?
I think one that is not emphasized enough is drive starts. I'll give you an example. All right. If we kick off 5 times, okay, and our opponent starts an average drive start of, let's say, the 25-yard line, okay, they kick off 5 times. Our average drive start for our offense is on the 35-yard line. Okay, that's a 10-yard difference in average over 10 total kicks. That's 100 yards. That's 10 first downs. And so if we can, and the same thing goes in the punt return game. What is the net yardage in the punt return game? Well, it all adds up. And if you can outnet someone 100 yards, 150 yards, that's a really good day on special teams, because that's 150 yards that their offense has to make up. So I think that's probably one of the most overlooked. Another one, and it contributes to the drive starts and the net averages, is penalties. Anytime you have a penalty in special teams, it's probably going to be anywhere from a 15 to a 40-yard penalty. You have your occasional 5-yard penalty. Those don't really affect false start or something like that. Not a big deal. But if you have a holding or a block in the back and you get a nice return, nope, come on back. Let's say you get a 40-yard return. Well, now that turns into holding. That turns into a 50-yard penalty, because they're going to knock it back 10 yards from the catch. So I think those are the two that are really important. There's other things, obviously, that are important. You got to take care of the ball. You got to make your field goals, winning percentage. You got to make all of them. Doesn't matter how far they are. And you got to manage rules and situations. Those things that come up. Not necessarily statistics, but they're aspects of the game that have to be executed and won. Because when it doesn't go well, bad things happen.
And speaking of every yard counts, I mean, you sent me some of these statistics that I was looking at earlier, in the sense of Birmingham allowed the fewest punt return yards on average of any team in the league. And, how do you really, from training camp to the end of the season, how do you implement, your philosophies and make sure they're grounded within each player? And like we talked about, of course, having guys being in the system for the last couple of years, I'm sure plays a factor as well.
Well, they know this. First, it starts with punt protection. Everything starts with punt protection. If you can't protect the punter, it doesn't matter how good he is. So we've got to protect the punter. All right, we spent a lot of time on our protection rules and techniques, but then you also have to work coverage. And I think the fact that we were real good in as far as average allowed by the opponent's punt return, I think that is shows you how good we punt the ball with Colby. First of all, he's got a great pocket to punt in, so our protection has been pretty good. All right, but our coverage, Coach Derek Riley does a great job with our gunners. Our returners do a good job giving looks to our coverage teams. And I think that just it all goes together. But we work hard on it.
Now, I know we got an exclusive film breakdown segment coming up here in just a moment. I know people are excited about that, but right before we get to that, Chris, we haven't talked about Harrison Mevis too much, but he was, one of the top kickers in the league this past year. Obviously, he's got a big frame for a kicker. He's got a lot of strength in that leg. What was it like coaching him this year? And, we saw him land with the New York Jets, get the practice squad opportunity for a little while. I mean, what makes Mevis such a consistent kicker, especially in your unit?
Well, he's another one that I followed when I was coaching with the Buccaneers, because I was always scouting college guys, and I thought he was really talented, clutch kicker, made big kicks in big games, and I was like, hey, if we get a chance to get him, I'll take him, And so we got a chance to sign him. He came in, and man, he was all in with whatever I could teach him to help him improve. And again, part of when you're a big, strong kicker making a lot of long field goals in college, again, guys are wanting to drive the ball, okay? And he had to learn you can't hit it like that, So he's another one. Hey, man, we're not going past 55 yards. We're making 38-yarders. We're making 42-yarders. And that's how we work. We focus on the stuff you're going to get most of the time, okay? But he was completely bought in with what I asked him to do. He did a great job. He did a great job on kickoffs as well, because I asked him to kick every ball in play. We don't like touchbacks. We want balls that our other guys on our team have a chance to go cover. All right, because we talked about it. It's an opportunity league. Well, I want to give 10 guys that are covering this kick an opportunity to go make a tackle. I don't want touchbacks. I don't want balls that don't reach the landing zone. I want to give our guys a chance to go play football.
No doubt. Well, I think it might be about that time. I know we promised the fans some exclusive film breakdown here, special teams, and I know Between the Goalposts is excited. He is quite the special teams savant, to say the least.
That's right. Well, I'm glad it's between the goalposts, right? There you go. All right, so here, I got some clips here. All right, I'll pull these up. All right, we're going to look at this kickoff coverage. All right, first one you're going to see, okay? It's just understand this Mario Goodrich, okay? Mario Goodrich is going to line up over here to the far right, okay? And then understanding, okay, understanding kickoff coverage. If you see my mouse to the left, I'm going to just say that this is cover one. All right, so this guy right here to my mouse on the left, he's playing the one spot. All right, Mario is over here to the far right of the screen. He's playing the one spot. They are playing safety, okay? Now, and then the second guy in on either side, they are the contain players. So when they come down, wherever this ball is, they've got to keep all 21 guys, all of these players, they got to keep them all to their inside shoulder, okay? So here you go, and here's the contain on the backside. So you got Mario right here at this far one. He gets a turnover. All right, ball's on the ground. All right, so now just to show you this right here, let me run it back a little bit. All right, so as you run it back, if you look at these contain players right there, now the ball's way out here by the sideline. So this is the contain player. He has to go and keep it on his inside shoulder. That's why you see him running outside like this. The safety has to contain the ball. So as that ball starts to move across the field, he's going to keep it on his inside shoulder. So now over here, here comes somebody's got to contain the ball right here. Now Mario, see him playing off. He's got to have a two-way go, okay? He's just got to keep the ball on his inside shoulder. So if that ball starts to bounce out here back to his side of the field, the contained player has to get outside and Mario has to get outside. So as you watch this play develop, watch this right side with Mario. Still containing the ball, still containing the ball. Somebody makes a tackle and he gets a punch out. Okay? He gets a punch out. The punch out is a bonus, but just understanding coverage, they've got to contain that ball and force it back inside because you got a lot of people in there, a lot of help in here ready to make that play. But if this returner gets outside and all this extra grass over here, we got a problem. Okay?
And that was such a huge play at that part of the game too, where you had a massive comeback against the Roughnecks that you go up 2 points, Goodrich forces the fumble, and you get another touchdown and put the game away. That was a huge, huge play to really seal the deal.
That's right, and we because it was a close game and we had to score late, so that was a huge play. We talk about taking care of the ball. I believe we were +3 in the turnover margin in special teams this year. It's just it's critical to take care of it and then go get it. All right. Now talking about punt protection and coverage. All right, right here a couple things to point out. All right, against the Battlehawks. All right, they've got two guys. They got one guy right here, number 32. All right, and number 4 at the bottom of the screen. Okay, what you got here? They're going to bail out of there. They're going to go try to set up and block most dangerous man. Whoever's free, they're going to pick up the most dangerous cover guy. All right. So now, the other 6 guys right there. Okay, so you see there, 32 bails out of the screen. Now you have these 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. They are trying to hold up. Okay, so now they're trying to hold up. And our coverage, our gunners are going to the ball. Okay, our PP, in this case, A.J. Thomas, number 32, he is going to the ball. He's just going to make a play. Now, if you look at our protection, this is the right side of our protection over here. Okay, the guard, the tackle, and the slot. Over here, the left side of the protection. All right, guard, tackle, and slot. So what their job is in coverage. If you are on the left side of the punt team, you have to have left leverage on that ball. Okay, meaning they need to keep that ball on their inside shoulder, because we can't have a returner getting outside. We can't get pinned in the middle of the field. Right side, you're right leverage players, so you're going to end up on the right side of that ball. Okay, so let's watch this coverage. All right, so freeze. There's AJ right here, 32. He's got no responsibility as far as leverage goes. But here's the whole left side. They're getting out. They got to be on the left side of the ball. The right side's got to be on the right side of the ball. Now, we're a directional punting team. Okay, here's the returner, number 1. Well, he didn't punt it to a direction. The ball's in the middle of the field, which it's not supposed to be. Guess what? We got to get this guy on the ground anyway. So there's no wide side of the field to cut off, but you can see our coverage getting leverage on that side of the field. You can see our coverage on the right side getting leverage. But here's the problem. you can get guys on the right and left side of that ball, and that returner can run it straight up the middle. So we have what we call stop the ball, and here, nobody has stopped the ball yet. So Ryan Langan is going to come get right in front of that ball carrier. He's going to try to make the play and keep him from getting forward up the field. All right, so there's the stop the ball. So the returner has nowhere to go but sideways. As he runs to the sideline, these guys are going to try to outflank him and keep that leverage. There they go, keeping that leverage, and there's the play right there. Because if we got leverage on the right and left side, and we've got somebody stopping the ball, he's got nowhere to run but sideways. And then that's what we want. Okay? All right, here's another one against Memphis. Okay? Left side, left leverage. They're going to end up running to the left of the ball, left of the returner. Right side, got to go to the right side. Okay? Couple of things. We get lucky here. The ball's in the middle of the field. Okay? Ball's in the middle of the field. Now, here's our gunner way out here. That's Madre Harper. All right? He's got to go and affect the returner. Okay? They're doing a good job blocking him. All right, so right now, our left side, if you look here, our left side has good leverage. But over here, right here at the mouse, right here, this is Myjai Sanders, our guard. He's on the right side, but right now, he doesn't have right leverage. So we got to make sure that we get right leverage on the right side. Okay? There's A.J. Thomas again, going down to make a play. There's Tizino, there's the snapper. So somebody's got to come stop this ball. But right now, we've got two guys, okay? We've got number 23, Ricky Person Jr., and number 41, Myjai Sanders. They do not have right leverage on that ball, so they've got to get right leverage, okay? So right now, doing a good job making this play. Here's JoJo Tillery, number 4. But you see these blockers on the outside? If they get him pinned, if we don't make this tackle, if AJ doesn't make the tackle, we've got a problem because now they've got a wall built to this side. So in that particular case, we didn't do a great job on our leverage. But AJ goes down, makes a nice one-on-one tackle. But you can see how close that was to being a bad play for us.
All those little details, I mean, this is tremendous breakdown. I mean, all those little details that, the casual fan like myself, we don't notice this on screen, but yeah, Tom is just making a
Well,
play.
they're not going. Well, you don't get to see as many replays of it, but
Yeah.
I think when people can learn to understand what the coverage is supposed to do, then okay, that makes sense. All right, so right here, play number 4. This tackle is by Gates. Okay, now a minute ago I told you the coverage that I had the 1s playing safeties and the 2s. All right, and I count from the outside in. Okay, so this is L1 on the left, L2 right here. There's the 3, the 4, L5, and then going on the right side, R1, R2, R3, R4, and R5. Now, I want you to understand the rules of this kickoff. It's not only the fact that the kickoff team has to be on the 40-yard line. The rule is, and the return team has an advantage. The kickoff team has to have 2 players between the hashes. Okay, they have to have 2 players between the numbers and the hash on each side. There you are, 2 between the numbers and the hash, and you have to have 2 outside the numbers. 2 outside the numbers. Now the return team, they don't have the same restrictions. They have to have 1 guy outside the numbers. They have to have at least 1 between the numbers and the hash. Okay, and in any of these second level players, you see that the front line is on the 35. Houston also has guys on the 32-yard line. They have to be outside those hash marks. Okay, and then you can have more here in the middle of the field. So they can wad up the middle of the field, and they've got this wall built inside. All right, so what we have to do is we got to get creative. All right, so in this particular rep, all right, I have what's called penetrators and wrappers, contains, and safety. I already talked about the safeties and the contains in the last play. All right, wrappers. All right, Gates is playing a wrapper right here. Okay, they're trying inside at the 4 and the 5. They're playing penetrators. All right, so the 47 Gates, what he's got to do is he's got to read his block and he's got to be able to play it to his left, or he's got to be able to go inside and make a play in the middle of the field. All right, so what I did on this one, all right, is I changed it up. I said, all right, my 2 is going to be the safety. My 1 is the contain. He's going to be a speed player down the field. And then Gates is going to have to read the block and go make a play. So let's watch this left side right here. Okay, we kick the ball to the left side. Okay, so now you see what happens there. Gates is going to address this blocker. He's going to put 2 hands on that blocker, and he's going to play with his eyes. He's going to read what's happening with the ball. If the ball bounces outside, he's going to shed that block and go make the play. That ball goes to the middle of the field over here. He's going to shed, go across his face, and go make that play. Here comes the screaming hot one because he's usually not blocked as a safety. He's going to go try to set that edge and make that play. So here we go. So he goes and affects the play. There it is. And now we got 2 guys. We got a free man, which one man can't block 2. Okay? And that's it on that play. James?
Yes, sir.
You there? All right, there
yeah,
you go.
I'm right here.
Okay, good.
I don't got much to add. I mean,
No, that's fine.
Outstanding.
I had you, I didn't mean to, but I had you muted. All right, so
No, there
next,
you go.
all right, another kickoff play. Okay, another one for Gates right here. All right, now here's what happens on this one. All right, the 2 returners deep for San Antonio, they did not communicate very well. All right, so we kicked the ball right between them. They had some communication issues before, so we kicked the ball right between them, and we were going to force them to communicate, okay, because that's one more thing they've got to get right, all right? And then what we're going to do is the ball gets on the ground, all right? Now let's talk about, I mentioned penetrators and wrappers. Let's talk about penetrators inside. Most of these blocks are single blocks. That means one-on-one, one man blocking another man in coverage, okay? But what I want our guys to do as penetrators, okay, so let's say these 2 guys in here are penetrators. I do not want to make contact with single blocks. I want them to make a miss. It's kind of like a guy driving to the basket in basketball. He's going to cross over dribble, make a move, and go to the basket. Well, let's watch these guys here inside. This is penetrators. Ball's on the ground. They can leave as soon as the ball hits the ground. Now watch them, make a miss. That's it right there. So if you go back and look at those 2 guys, their job is don't make contact. Make a miss, get vertical, and go affect this play. And then there's your
Euro
contained
step action right there.
Yeah, so that's it right there. So that's what we're trying to do sometimes. Now, you still got contain and safety, right? So they're doing a nice job over there. So that's a simple coverage concept right there. Cover 1. The ones are the safeties. All right, here's another kickoff play. Now, just to paint the picture for you, this is the opening game of the season. All right, I went back and studied DC from 2 years ago when they had this kickoff rule the first year in the XFL. Okay, and they were running.
Homework.
Oh yeah, they'll tell you what they're going to do. All right, most likely, at least you got a better chance. They're going to go block one-on-one. So this guy on the left, he's going to block this guy, number 2, because he's a contained player. All right, because most teams are going to play that 1 as a safety, kind of play him over the top. Okay, they're going to block all across the board. There might be a double team in there. This guy outside the numbers, he's going to block this number 2 because he's going to be a down the field guy. All right, and there's my safety. That's Kenny Robinson right there. All right, now what we did, this was later in the game. We saw that they're letting Kenny go. Well, I said, all right, Kenny, let's go cover 2 this time. All right, so the 2 is playing the safety. He's going to pop out at a different level. He's going to block him. Kenny's free to the ball. Here you go. So sometimes you have to make adjustments in the middle of the game, okay? Because you don't know what people are going to give you, but that's the kind of adjustments that you can make. All right? Go back to look at that one more time. All right? Some other things to look at. All right? We were kicking into the wind. The ball's not going to go as far. All right? So here it is. This coverage inside, once that ball starts getting close to you, you may have to two-hand a blocker. That means you're going to put two hands on him and then play two gaps so you can see where the ball declares. But if you are a penetrator and that ball's close to you, yeah, you can make a guy miss, but if you end up playing behind this returner, you can't make a play. So as that ball gets closer, you've got to idle down and you've got to control your blocker and then keep it in front of you right there. Okay? So you see everybody kept the ball in front right there. All right, let's talk about this game right here. All right, so this is against San Antonio in Birmingham. All right, just to give you a little scouting report on this group, okay? They're very athletic. They run well. Number 25 was a good PP, good cover player. Okay, I mean, good. I mean, they had some good players. Now you had good gunners, okay? And JoJo Tillery is one of our better special teams players. So I put JoJo on 25, okay? Now, if you look outside, you have a gunner out here on the left. We have a corner out there. They're going to have a gunner on the right side. We have a corner out there. But if you count them up, the corners are 1 and 2. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what that means is we got one returner, that's 10. So what we did in this particular, against this particular team, is put 2 returners deep on some of our returns. Brad Wing does a phenomenal job. Okay, he is a very good directional punter, very good at disguising where he's punting the ball, and he was just tearing teams up in the net punting category because he was punting the ball 60 yards, but punting it over by the sidelines, and the ball was on the ground, teams couldn't get a return.
Yeah.
So because he's so good at what he does, we had to come up with a plan to give ourselves a chance to get some of those yards back because he's going to try to hit it 60 yards. So we put 2 returners back. All right. Amari Rogers is going to be on the left side of the screen, and Davion Davis is going to be on the right side of the screen. Okay. JoJo Tillery's got 25. Daniel Isom's going to bail out of there and try to pick up MDM. It could be a gunner. It could be one of these guys from the interior, but he's going to help out with whoever is the most dangerous cover player. All right, Brad Wing's going to punt this ball to his right and our left. So Amari's going to make a U call, U. And that's telling Davion, it's your ball. And then Amari's going to come over there and pick up most dangerous and get this play started. So here comes Amari from the other side of the field. Just get it started, okay? And now get the ball vertical. But we don't have a chance for that if that ball's hitting the ground. All right, now let me go back and show you some other concepts. Some things that matter at the line of scrimmage. I want you to look at their body position, okay? Right here, I want to knock him back and inside. Now, because if I can do this at the line of scrimmage, these holdups, all right, that ball snapped on the yard line there. So if we can hold him back 6, 7 yards, that's 6, 7 more yards he's got to cover. Knock him back right there. All right, now, once we hold him up, we got to turn him loose because we can't throw him to the ground, and we can't restrict them and turn them. So right there. Now, once they get out in coverage, okay, we want them to release outside if we can, okay? Take them, but the whole time, what I need control. He's got control of his man. He's about to lose. Marlon is 17 right here. He's about to lose control of him, okay? But what we want, this corner's got control on the right side. 52 is a free guy. But as this play develops, I want you to see the control. All right, he's got control. I want to put his hands on him. Mari's coming to help out to get this thing started. Marlon has just lost his guy, 52. But he's got the speed to make up for it. Okay, right here, JoJo, he doesn't have control, but he's about to get it. Doesn't have control. I think that's Gates. He's got to go and just get control of his man. You got right here, control of his man on the left side. Okay, what we want our guys to do in the return game is give the returner a butt to run off of. Right now, we got Amari just gave him a butt to run off of. He can run straight here. Right here, he's got control. That's JoJo. Give him a butt to run off of. Marlon Williams right here at the 40-yard line is about to give him a butt to run off of right there. So now the returner's job is to get vertical and make one man miss. Okay, so right here, he lost him. So he's going to go find somebody else. give him a butt. So right now we got a butt to run off of, just had a butt to run off of, a butt to run off of, a butt to run off of, and a butt to run off of. We've got control across the board of these guys in coverage. So
It's a lot of
now
butts to run off of.
that's it, and that's all you got to do. And then the returner's going to have to make one guy miss. If he can make a guy miss, then we got a chance. And that's it. So what happened right here? Check this out. All right,
We
the
got a
punter.
tackle from the punter.
Well, but can't block them all. So right
Yeah.
here, watch what happens. He's got a butt to run off of. He just doesn't take it. So his butt should be to get to the inside in the middle of the field right here. But that's okay. Hey, he's playing what he sees. And then the punter makes, and Brad Wing's a good athlete now. He's a good
Yeah.
punter.
He's-
He's a good punter. All right, now.
I know he was running all those fake punts back in the day at LSU. So
Oh, yeah.
he's got
Yeah,
some
you got to watch out for him now.
Yeah.
He's a good player. All right, so now let's look at this. All right, we got two more plays to show you. This is another kickoff coverage play. All right. Over here, Marcus Ball is the contain player. Okay, he's a contain player. All right, and Houston does a good job. They got physical guys. They're sound, and they're gonna play a physical game. So you have to be physical back. All right. The other thing is they're strong, and so if you get stuck on a block, it's gonna be hard to get off a block against these guys. They got some good players. Their coaches do a good job. All right. All right. So right here, I changed this up a little bit. So right here, Daniel Isom is lined up at the hash, inside the hash right here, number 19. He is now playing safety. Some of the clips I've showed you, the safety was at the 1 spot, sometimes the 2. Well, now he's in here at the 5. Okay, so what now this is going to happen is Marcus is the contained player, plays like an outside linebacker, defensive end, strong-handed. He can set a physical edge. All
He's
right?
got that
Stephen
frame.
Gilmore. What's that?
He's got that frame for it too. Like he's.
Oh yeah,
he's a
and he
big
can
body.
run. And he can run too. He's a physical player, does a great job. All right, and Stephen Gilmore is a corner, plays a lot of safety. So there's a reason they probably aren't going to block him, but in this particular rep, we're going to make him a penetrator. Meaning, Stephen, you got no rule but to go disrupt this return. Marcus Ball at the 2, your job is to make sure you keep everything inside. And when I say rule of 21, guys, I'm talking about all these players. When Marcus goes out here, he's got to make sure he's got all 21 guys on his left shoulder. He cannot let anybody from Houston outside of his right shoulder. Okay, so here you go. Watch this play. Steven's going to penetrate and disrupt. Okay, and then Marcus is going to make that play. So now we got two players over here, and here comes Isom as my safety, bouncing out. So now we got 3. Okay, because we just change up jobs right there. Okay, kick it away from where they thought it was going and get it outside.
Simple as
Okay,
that.
here's one right here. Here's another one with Daniel Isom. Now, you remember I talked about the rules. The return team had an advantage because they could move guys around. If you look at Michigan right here, they overload this field. If you look at this field now, if you look at the middle of the field, from the left hash here on, they only got 4 people out here. So what I did, I saw this overload. I know what they're doing. They're trying to go double team. They're trying to run it to the sideline and get us outflanked because you see how heavy we are in the middle of the field. So I say, hey, Harrison, I gave him the signal for kick it to the right, away from their heavy side. He saw me on the sidelines. I gave him the signal. Nobody else knew it because this was a call from the sideline. We're already lined up. This particular rep, contain, all right, penetrator. Here's my safety right here. This is Daniel Isom, number 19, okay? Now, just because you're safety doesn't mean you have to play above everybody else. Your job is to fill a gap and go make a play. All right, so watch a couple things that happen. Ball's going to be punted to the left over here, okay, to this side. All right, good. Now, they're loaded up 3 on 2. Here comes a 4th. They're going to double our 1 and 2, and they've got a lot of grass out here. But it helped that we kicked the ball away from their return. But here comes Isom, my safety. Okay, unblocked. There he is, right there. Okay, so just trying to mix it up on guys is really important, you know. And again, Michigan, they're really good. I think they're one of the better special teams units in the league. Let me unshare this. I think they're one of the better special teams units in the league. And so when you play them, you've got to be ready for all kinds of stuff, and their coach does a great job. And man, they are probably the most difficult team to play, special teams wise, in my opinion. A lot of respect for them. They're very creative. They got everybody's got good players. Everybody's well coached, you know. But we have to do our job when we go out there.
No doubt. Yeah. Well, you already mentioned Michigan. I was going to ask, what would be some of the special teams units across this league that you think are some of the best, aside from Birmingham, of course?
I think St. Louis is very sound. They've got good players. They're fast, and they got big guys that can run. They've got the big wide receiver that's a gunner. I mean, he's just a nightmare in coverage. Houston Houston's got big physical players, and they're hard to play because they're so physical. And it's when you don't match up physically, it's going to be your guys are going to be sore the next day. And but across the board, everybody's good, man. Specialists are outstanding. They do a great job kicking and punting, and and then you get some of the teams like Michigan that they kick that knuckleball that gets on the ground. That creates a little bit of a challenge sometimes that you have to have a plan for. Yeah, they're all pretty good, man. It's you have to be prepared every week, and you have to give the guys a plan that's they're able to execute, and then really be honest with you, they got to know what to do, know how to do it. Well, my job is to teach them. Their job is to know what to do, and then go out and play hard, play harder than their opponents, and our guys have done a nice job of that, and I'm really proud of them.
There's so many spring football specialists that have gone to the next level and exceeded. I mean, we just saw examples of it this week with Lucas Haversick coming really just as an emergency kicker and setting a Packers franchise record. Brandon Aubrey's been doing it for a long time for Dallas. Jake Bates doing it for the Lions now. Cavante Turpin also with the Cowboys. Just across the board, so many success stories. I'd be curious, as we wrap things up here, if you had a message to, guys like who might be in a similar position to yourself that might be undrafted free agents that are just looking for a place to play, just trying to find an opportunity where they can prove that they have what it takes to get to the next level. Yeah. Why is the UFL or one of these alternative leagues a good landing spot for them?
We're a seasonal league. We're a spring league. Once the coaches are done with the season, we're not involved with the league anymore. But the league does a good job of providing opportunities. The general managers for each club, they work year-round in scouting. The league is doing a nice job of talent evaluation and just seeing who are the guys out there at these showcases that do have the measurables to play. Because you're always looking for younger talent, because eventually guys retire from football or younger talent comes in and beats them out. You're always trying to improve your team. And so I get a lot of messages from guys, hey, how can I get in? I said, man, you need to reach out to the GMs and you need to try to go to one of these showcases to get yourself seen by the talent evaluators and the scouts that are involved with the league. But it is a tremendous opportunity, man. I think this job is very rewarding. You see guys go and have an opportunity to better themselves and to make really good money in a short amount of time, and it's just going to help start their world and the rest of their life for them and their family. So very rewarding job with this league.
No doubt. I mean, it's called a league of opportunity for a reason, and life-changing across the board for a lot of these guys, including coaches who get to go to the next level. Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time today. Well, one final question before we wrap things up here. Obviously, you've been in with the Birmingham Stallions the last few years. How excited are you to go back to Birmingham and play for those fans and get back to Stallion Nation in 2026?
I tell you, it's a very loyal group, very loyal community. And they love the Stallions there, and I love Birmingham. I tell you, I enjoy every time we get to go there. I think it's a great food town. It's just a really good small big city, and I really enjoy it. Looking forward to being back there. Glad that we're getting to stay in Birmingham because we've had success there, but also appreciate the support we've had over the years.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, this was Chris Boniol, special teams coordinator for the Birmingham Stallions. Chris, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was a pleasure. That's some of the best phone breakdown we've seen yet, and we'll have to bring you back on at some point, maybe after the Stallions win another championship. But again, thank you for coming on. To everyone who tuned in, you know where to find us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you check us out on social media. And until next time, this is Around the UFL Interview Series Edition.